Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It's TPM5 here, back again with another NBA video. In today's video, I'll be talking about the Memphis Grizzlies, why I think they'll be back in the playoffs next year, and why I think they'll surprise a lot of people. So without further ado, let's get started. Last season, the Memphis Grizzlies finished with a 38 and 34 record, and were one of the first beneficiaries of the play-in system, as they finished ninth in the Western Conference. However, they beat Golden State Warriors in the match for the 8th seed. Taylor Jenkins finally got the best out of this team after a couple subpar years. They were mediocre in terms of offensive rating. However, in terms of defense, they were 6 out of 30 teams. So, what I would call an elite team on that side of the floor. Ja Morant was averaging 19 points per game, along with 7.5 assists. Dillon Brooks, stepped up into that second scoring type of role, averaging 17 points per game on very passable efficiency. Now, Jaron Jackson Jr. had some injury concerns and didn't play all that much, and I'll speak more about him later. Now, another impressive part of this team was the fact that Ja Morant upped his playoffs averages to 30.2 points per game, which is actually a new Grizzlies record in terms of points per game in a playoff series. But just a quick break, guys. I make NBA content 2 to 3 times a week, so I'd heavily appreciate if you subscribe. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell. Don't forget to comment too, and let's continue with the video. Now, a key move this offseason was the Memphis Grizzlies trading Jonas Valanciunas as part of a deal, mainly centered around Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, and also a few first-round draft picks. So they ended up receiving Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe was moved on, but they did retain Steven Adams. Now, Steven Adams did have a down year last season in New Orleans, but that is expected as he had less minutes and also had to share the pain with guys like Zion as well. And obviously, the New Orleans Pelicans are going to be favoring the player they did pick up, and is a big part of their future if he does end up staying. It will hurt to see Valanciunas go, as he averaged 17 points and 12 rebounds per game. That was 8 defensive rebounds per game. He was one of the better offensive rebounders in the league, and probably does have a more complete game, in terms of mid-ranges and probably shooting than Steven Adams. But what the Grizzlies lose in Jonas Valanciunas, they gain in Steven Adams. Steven Adams, is very good in the pick and roll. His 7th all-time in effective field goal percentage. He's a good defensive player, obviously too. I think he probably, in terms of interior defense, is probably better than Valanciunas. Valanciunas probably has him covered in terms of rebounding. But another thing is, for what the media and a lot of people have made out, Adams and Valanciunas only differ 0.1% in the offensive rating category, with the Jonas Valanciunas having the advantage there. Now, a move that did happen earlier today or yesterday, depending on where you are, the Grizzlies did trade Juancho and Hernan Gomez to Boston in exchange for Chris Dunn, Carson Edwards, and a pick swap. Now, this deal will be sending out $7 million in cap over the next 2 years, 14 million, so $7 million per year for the next 2 years, in exchange for Chris Dunn, who's a fairly reliable defensive point guard. Not going to expect all that much from him, and then Carson Edwards as well. So probably just getting out of future commitments and just adding some more cap flexibility, which is a big trend for this team, as the Memphis Grizzlies only have 113 million committed this year, which puts them below the salary cap, the maximum, and they only have 55.7 million committed for next season. But let's not take that out of context, as Ja Morant will need to be extended. So it's going to talk about another player. Jaron Jackson Jr. spent a bit of time last year injured. Now, if you look at any level that Jaron Jackson Jr. has played, it starts off with the same pattern. He kind of starts out slowly and then he gets into his groove. But I think that he's someone that can do a bit more in terms of shooting from range. And I think that we just have to be patient for his offensive game to come around. The shooting will come, and then his offense will become more balanced and better when he has that weapon to himself, if you will. Now, he was averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks per game, with 47% shooting from the field, and then also 39 from 3 in 2019-20. And that's pretty passable as well, and that was his second year in the league, I believe. So he still has a lot of developing to do, and he did drop down to 14 points, 6 rebounds, two blocks stays the same, but he dropped in points and shooting efficiency. But that did mean he came back from injury and was very rusty. I'm looking for him to step up in a big way this year. Somewhere around 18 points, 9 rebounds per night. I think that he's still a very key part of this team. I'd be very surprised if he continues in that slump of form. Now, Dylan Brooks is another key player. He's proven he can defend at an elite level. He can be a six-man bucket getter for them. He can score 15 to 18 points per night. I think is someone pretty important to a team that wants to win. So let's look at the depth chart for the team before I end the video. You have Ja Morant at point guard, I think he'll have another big year. Shooting guard will have Dylan Brooks. That'll be 17 points per game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Pretty good efficiency as well. Kyle Anderson stayed despite trade rumors, 12.6 rebounds per game. Brandon Clark could take another jump as well, 10 points and 6 rebounds. Steven Adams was averaging 8 points, 9 rebounds in less minutes. I expect those numbers to increase. And then Tyus Jones, DeAnthony Melton, Desmond Bane, and Jaron Jackson Jr. and Xavier Tillman off the bench. They could move Jaron Jackson to a starter, which is where I think he'll end up. They'll have to ease him back in. And then guys like Jarrett Culver and John Conchar at the end of the bench. Now that brings me to the end of the video, guys. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.